The train rolled into Edinburgh Waverley as the evening light softened the stone of the city. I pressed my forehead to the window and felt the gentle rattle slow, like a long breath after a run. It had been years since I last walked these streets, and tonight I would meet my closest friends from childhood. We had promised to gather here after so many postponed plans. Mara would fly in from Dublin, Ravi from London, and Elena was already staying with Tom in Leith. The message thread was full of jokes, but my hands still trembled with quiet nerves. Outside the station, damp air carried a smell of rain and warm bread. I pulled my coat close and climbed toward the Royal Mile, passing buskers and tourists who were taking photos of the darkening sky. Our meeting point was a small cafe with steamed windows and wooden benches. When I pushed open the door, the bell rang softly, and I saw four familiar figures shifting and waving like birds ready for flight. We laughed before a word was spoken. Then Mara hugged me so tightly my ribs sang, and Tom wiped his eyes, pretending there was dust in here. Ravi held up a tray like a proud waiter and announced that he had ordered the first round of tea and scones. Elena, who had become a nurse, checked my face as if it were a chart, then smiled in relief. We talked over each other at first, dropping names, dates, and memories like coins on a table. The cafe smelled of butter and cinnamon. Outside, the drizzle thickened, turning the pavement into a mirror. I felt the years between us fading, no longer heavy but thin like mist. When the tea arrived, our hands all reached at once together. It did not take long before we began to tell the old stories. There was our secret club in the tree behind the school, where we would hide notes in a tin and swear to protect them. There was the day we cycled to the reservoir and screamed when a swan chased us, and Tom fell into the heather. We remembered Mrs. Kent, who gave us poems and asked us to read them aloud. She had said our voices mattered, even when they shook. As the rain tapped the window, I felt her words again, bright as small bells tonight. When the plates were empty, we decided to walk. The rain had eased to a mist, and a piper stood near St. Giles, filling the street with a brave, sad tune. We moved through the crowd and let ourselves be pulled downhill toward the dark mouth of the station, then turned and climbed again for the sake of warmth. Our talk slid between memory and news. Mara wanted to start a gallery. Ravi hoped to change careers. Elena was saving for a flat. Tom had grown quiet lately, but laughed whenever one of us slipped on the slick stone steps. We decided to climb Arthur's seat before the sky closed completely. It was a foolish idea, but it felt like something we would have done when we were 12 and fearless. We crossed to Holyrood Park and followed the worn path past the gorse, which was still bright in patches, despite the month. The wind quickened as we rose. I heard our breath and our shoes scrape the rock. When Mara slipped, Tom caught her wrist and grinned. For a second, the rest of us paused, surprised by his easy strength. The city opened below us like a map again. At the top, the wind pressed our coats to our backs and our hair whipped our faces. We stood in a circle and looked out at the lights already appearing, small and brave in the gray air. Tom cleared his throat and said he had not told us something. He had lost his job 2 months ago and had not found the courage to ask for help. He felt ashamed and tired. No one spoke for a moment. Then Elena stepped forward, touched his shoulder, and told him we would help him plan. The shame thinned, like a cloud opening. We went down the slope together, slower now, speaking more gently. The town had drawn in its lights as if gathering a blanket. We found a small pub near the foot of the hill, its windows painted with gold leaves. Inside, a folk band was tuning a fiddle, and a pot of stew sent a rich, kind smell through the room. We took a table in the corner and shared bread, soup, and stories. Mara and I remembered our fight when we were 14, when we did not speak for weeks, and we apologized again, laughing at our old pride. Later, we crossed North Bridge, the wind sharper there, and the road shining with scattered rain. Ravi pointed to Calton Hill, where the monuments stood like chess pieces, and suggested we climb again in the morning if the weather allowed it. Elena stopped at a charity shop window to admire a blue coat that looked both brave and friendly. She said she wanted a change, but a patient had called her today a calming star, and now she felt torn. We told her change could be slow and kind. She smiled, and the city lights winked like companions at dusk. We had rented 2 small rooms above a bookstore in the old town, and the owner handed us keys with a wink. After a quick wash, we gathered again with a bottle of local beer and a bag of crisps. Mara opened her backpack and pulled out a thin photo album, its corners bent, the pages smelling slightly of glue. Inside were images of us in muddy shoes, with scraped knees and wide eyes. There was a shot of our class play, where I forgot my line and Tom whispered it twice. He laughed now, and I forgave myself again. At the back of the album, there was an envelope with our names written in careful letters. Mara had found it when clearing her mother's attic. Inside was a card from Mrs. Kent, written years after we left school, but somehow never given to us. She thanked us for reading with courage and for listening to each other. She wrote that friendship was also a kind of art because it required patience, attention, and the bravery to say hard things. We passed the card around and fell quiet. The pub music downstairs rose and fell like a tired heartbeat nearby. In the morning, mist floated from the river and the rooftops looked washed and new. We packed slowly, unwilling to disturb the softness of our night. At the station, we made plans that felt solid, but also light enough to carry. We would call Tom's aunt about a vacancy, send Ravi courses to consider, help Elena choose a coat, and read Mara's gallery proposal. I watched them step onto their trains one by one and felt sadness without fear. Our meeting in Edinburgh had turned old roots into green threads, and now they stretched across distance, strong enough to hold,